Welcome to Through Theology in a Year. This is of the Theology Unplugged podcast, coming through in a lot of different ways live. If you're listening to this afterwards, you can watch us live. I just can't tell you the exact time yet. We're trying to figure it out. When the most people can do it, when the most people wants to do it, really when the most people that can do it and can be involved at the same time, because I've got a live chat here and I can see everybody's chat. I need to get used to looking at it. It's going to take me a while, but you guys show up live if you like. It's great. If you're listening to this afterwards, way afterwards, it's really good to have you. Really good to have everybody. But today, this is the third session. We haven't gotten that far. We are talking about, you may have heard of the theology program. The theology program is what we're trying to go through in a year. And you'd think you could get through it, but let me tell you something. It's going to be tough. We're going to try to get through the entire theology program in a year, which is 60 sessions of theology, 6 courses. These are ones that I teach formally. We've got videos for them all at Credo courses. If you ever want to look at the more formal version where I'm teaching this in front of a class with my buddy Rome Dyke, that's a lot of fun, and you can get it at Credo courses. Or just go to Credo House. It's going to be at Credo House, Credo courses, Credo Ministries. I'm sorry about the mix-up. We're trying to put things together better. But anyway, today we are talking about what to expect really for this Through Theology in a Year. And I'm going to focus on the method that I personally use. And this may be the first thing that you guys need to watch to be able to figure out what's this bozo talking about. How does he teach theology? Just got off the phone with the guy who was calling, asking about the Credo courses and saying, hey, how do you guys teach? Are y'all Calvinist, Arminian? What do you think about the end times? What do you think about creation? That kind of stuff. And that's a good question. You really should ask that stuff and say, is there an approach you're coming to theology with? And the answer for you is yes. There is an approach, and we're going to talk about it today. We're also going to start by briefly talking about, kind of comparing to this, where does this fit into the church, the educational program of the church? Many times whenever I'm teaching through theology or something like this, people come up to me and say, hey, Michael, why don't they do this from the pulpit all the time? Why do I get such a watered-down version of stuff from the pulpit? I'm not going to criticize anybody's pulpit, the methodology they use. I don't know their big picture. So all I'm doing is trying to say where this particular program, the Through Theology in a Year, gets placed in your life. And I hope it's beneficial to be placed in your life in such a way. But we're going to go... we're going to look at some slides here, and I'm going to talk as we go through these slides. Let me see if I can make sure I get to them here. See if that works. No, that didn't work. Well, that worked to just get to the slides. Let's see if I can. Okay, so what is the theology program? Or, in other words, what is Through Theology in a Year? Now, I'm going to read this real quick verbatim. The theology program, or Through Theology in a Year, is an intense theological studies program designed for busy people who may never go to seminary but want deep theological training. The day I was in seminary, whenever I went to seminary, it's the greatest thing in the world. I went to Dallas Theological Seminary, sat under some of the greatest people. It's just such a gift to my life. Have nothing but good things to say. I mean, I guess I could pick and choose some things, but either way, I had great teachers. I was blessed, and I remember sitting in a guy named John Hanna's class, and he was talking about, I don't know, something in the early church. I think it was actually Origen he was talking about. He was an early church father around 250, Eastern church father. And he was talking about him, and it was just so exciting hearing about all these guys that came after the apostles and did so many great things for the faith and wrote so many things I never knew. I didn't know what happened from the time at the end of the book of Acts until I started thinking about things in my life. That's it. There was a big gap. And we started filling those things in, and it was one of the greatest things. I mean, just hearing about the bigger church picture and understanding everything that goes on in the church, has gone on. And really our heritage, it's kind of like what you're doing is you're thumbing through. You found something. You found the. My name's Michael Patton, and I found that. I do have that. So I think I have it right there. My grandma's book of patents. I really do. I've got it right there. I forgot about it. I was looking through it the other day. But you look through these, and it's like, I didn't know we had this, and I just start thumbing through it and seeing all the patents, and it was just incredible. It really was, to go back and to see your heritage, who they are, what they did, and she did a great job of putting together all of our family history. I got to one guy. Listen to this. This is great. This is so much fun. I'm so glad I read it. But there was one guy, I think he was my great-great-great-grandfather, and I forget his name. I should remember his name. But my great-great-great-grandfather. And the story is told about him in my genealogy. And it talks about him being at a saloon. I think it was in Kansas City. And he was playing, and that was a rough time back then, in the late 18th century. But I think he was playing cards with a bunch of guys, and somebody accused him of cheating. I kid you not, this is real. This is not a movie. I got it written down. It's crazy. Somebody accused him of cheating, and so they did what they normally did. They went out and had a duel. And so, because I'm alive, you know who won. but he got out there and had a duel, shot the guy, killed him, and later on in his life, he couldn't quit thinking about it because it was hard on him to have killed that guy. I don't know his relationship with the guy. I don't know whether this has ever happened before with them. I don't know much any other history. I just know this story. And he felt so guilty, he became a Baptist itinerant preacher. Isn't that cool? He became a Baptist. I don't know much about it. I'd love to hear some of his sermons or read some of his sermons, but don't know anything about that. I've tried, whenever I found his name, I tried to find him more broadly. I couldn't. So I guess he wasn't a great preacher, maybe. He was no Charles Spurgeon. But anyway, it was just really cool to find that in my church history, or my family history. Whenever we go through church history, you've got to think of it like that. It is that cool because you're going through the lineage of all the people that went before you. And that is one of the things that I'm doing. I'm getting so deep in this already, but I get excited about it. I really do. It's one of the best things about what we do, how we integrate this, and how we learn historically as well as biblically. Full systematic theology. But as we go through this, we're going to be learning our family history. And you got to understand, folks, listen to this. You got to listen to this. Because there's a lot of things to criticize in church history. There's a lot of things you're not going to agree with. There's a lot of movements you're not going to agree with. There's a lot of institutions you may not agree with. But it doesn't mean it's not part of your family. Everybody that went before us is part of our family. And you're going to find people that were great itinerant preachers, and you're going to find people that just killed somebody, and that's it. That's the way it is in church history. But you got to learn from it, just like we want to learn from our family history. If you don't learn from history, it's just, what is the old saying? You're bound to repeat it. And we've got to learn from it. We've got to look towards church history and see what has God done through the power of the Holy Spirit, because we believe in the power of the Holy Spirit, don't we? We don't believe that the Holy Spirit's just itinerant. He's with the church. The gates of hell shall not prevail against the church. So whenever you have that in your mind, whenever you know the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, then you're able to see that the church must have been, you've got to find that family line. That family line is there. And like I said, there's going to be good, there's going to be bad. There's going to be good brothers and sisters, bad brothers and sisters. There's going to be good aunts and uncles, bad aunts and uncles. It doesn't mean they weren't with Christ. It doesn't mean they weren't part of the church. It doesn't mean that they weren't Christian. It just means there's people that make mistakes, just like you and I have made mistakes our entire life. But we're going to learn from them. That's part of how we go through this theology. through theology in a year. We're going to do it historically as well. There are while there are many great subjects, biblical and spiritual, that Christians can and need to study, our focus is on six specific, let's say, disciplines or courses or subjects of systematic theology. Our desire is to teach people how to think by opening their minds to diverse views. And whenever I say that, you're looking at your whole entire family. I want you to think by looking at the diversity of your family. Learning from history, wrestling with difficult issues. The wrestling match is a big part of this. I'm going to teach you to wrestle. I'm going to teach you to dive into that wrestling match. I'm going to teach you to get into it even if it displaces your hip, just like it did with Jacob. And graciously, did I say graciously? Graciously, okay, if I didn't, if you missed it, if I cut out. And graciously engage an increasing relativistic and postmodern world. I wrote this 22 years ago. The relativistic and postmodern world, increasingly. Man, it's coming to fruition, and it's still headed in that direction. It is still getting more and more relativistic, and postmodernism is showing its ugly outgrowths. Okay, let's see here. My mission with the theology program is renewing minds and changing lives by purposely guiding people through a study of historic and biblical Christian theology. Our goal is not so much to teach good theology. Did you get that? Don't leave. Don't leave. Our goal is not so much to teach good theology, as important as that is, but to teach people how to think through theology. Okay? Really, here's my personal goal in ministry, and it has been for 25 years. I want you to believe more deeply and more truly today than you did yesterday. And you know what that assumes? That assumes that you can. That assumes that you're not perfect in the faith. You can grow in the faith. I'll say that over and over again. You're going to get sick of me hearing me say that. But it's true. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. We can believe more today than we did yesterday. We can believe more deeply today than we did yesterday. And we can believe more correctly today than we did yesterday. I remember when I first became a Christian and learned theology, I thought I had it all down. I read one book. It was there. Why doesn't everybody else get it? Man, I've been in so many wrestling matches since then, and I love them now. I hated them before. I love them now. So that is what we're doing there. Let's see here. Okay, so let's fit it in. Let's fit it into a kind of a broader deal. Okay, what makes what we're doing different? Intensity in studies. This is going to be intense, folks. It will be intense. I think I misnamed this because I'm not even going to get as far as I wanted to. I'm going to try to hurry up. Intensity in studies, Irenic Theology. I'm going to talk about what that is in just a minute. I promise I've got to get to that. Irenic Theology, intentional design. This is very intentional. I want you to start at the very beginning, and I want you to stay with us till the very end. If you've jumped in, you couldn't have. But later on, whenever we get to day 200, I'm going to try to tell people, hey, if you're just coming to us, love it, you can stay, but get back to the first because you need to go through the whole thing. Comprehensive coverage and doing theology in community. And whenever I say in community, I don't just mean up here in the chat. Well, that's great. I really do I love that. But I mean in the community of the church, the entire church history, like I talked about, our family genealogy. The education program of the church must have avenue of intense interactive Christian theological education through a program which gives people the opportunity to learn at a level that other venues cannot provide. The theology program, or through theology in a year, TTY, endeavors to be this avenue. That's what I'm hoping to do. Okay, so how does it fit? Well, whenever you're talking about sermons, you have low commitment. Whenever you're talking about the actual classroom where I teach this in, it's higher commitment. Fellowship at Sunday school, it's a little bit higher commitment. Whenever you have a sermon, it's kind of low expectations. I mean, I could ask you right now, what did you learn at your sermon? It was yesterday. You may remember that, but if I'd ask you in a week, will you? You see, It's designed in such. I'm not criticizing it. It's what did you have to eat 2 days ago for breakfast? Oh, you don't know? Was it necessary? Yes, it was. This is what we have to do. So sermons are something. They're intentional that way. They just encourage us for the day, for the week. They're important. Same thing. High expectations in a classroom. If you took this in a classroom, sermons are kind of more devotional, while something like this is very foundational. I'm going to be pushing you hard, and you're using your mind, understanding. Sermons, short-term life change. I don't mean sermons can't have a long term. They do. Sometimes people get saved during sermons. I'm just saying, generally speaking, this is the way that this is. People will remember, because whenever you get into that tough wrestling match with theology, it changes you forever. Exhortation in sermons and education here. Although I may be exhorting you as well. I've got a lot of pastoral element in me, and I may be pushing you. I hope I have so far. But the education program of the church needs to have all of these in balance. All of them. Okay? Okay, so Irenic theology. What do I mean whenever I say that? Because I'm going to be saying that a whole lot. I hope you leave here with that term. It comes from the Greek Irene. Irene. I knew a girl in Romania named Irenia, and she was a good friend while I was there. There's a lot of people named that, but it simply means peace. Polemic theology, polemos, simply means war. And then apologetic comes from apologia, and that's to give an answer for. Whenever you're talking about theology in general, here's the deal. You can have Irenic theology, theology that is done peaceably, accurately representing all views. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. If you're just listening to this, just keep on listening. But Irenic theology accurately represents all views, even when you oppose them. You have much more of a I don't know. It's not less commitment to your theology. It's just an understanding of why people believe what they believe. I'll talk more about that in just a second. Polemic theology, theology that is done in a warlike manner inside the church. Whenever you are inside the church and you're fighting with that for the faith with other churches, doesn't mean you don't believe those other churches aren't true churches, but sometimes it does. But you're just trying. We've got all kinds of battles going on within the church, to where the church is compromising, and we have to talk polemically, prophetically speaking against those with whom there is disagreement. And then apologetic theology is theology that is done to defend the faith against those who are outside the church. But whenever we do apologetics, folks, we do it with gentleness and respect. Paul says, what do you have to do with correcting the outside world? We just give them the gospel. I mean, the outside world is going to be what it's going to be. We hope to change the culture. We hope the church changes the culture. But at the same time, what do you expect, Paul says? They're not Christians. Are you surprised that they're acting that way? So apologetic theology is kind of evangelistic. You're trying to change people, but it's peaceable. It's very peaceable. If you're not doing it peaceably, it doesn't matter. Don't beat up on people outside the faith. They're acting just like their nature says they should act. But we're going to be focusing on Irenic theology during this program. I want you to leave here knowing alternative positions just as well as they know them. There's going to be some things that we talk about in this class when we get to soteriology. This is always the good example. Maybe you have no clue what I'm talking about. Don't worry about the words. There is just a big disagreement in the church, in theology, between Calvinists and Arminians, and the different ways they view certain aspects of theology. Did God choose us before time, or did he just choose those whom he foresaw would believe? I don't mean to straw man anything. I'm just trying to give a general example, and those are both fair in general examples. In other words, does God predestine everybody who's saved, or do you have your own free will that predestines you? And there's big fight. But let me tell you something, folks. There's reasons all sides believe what they believe. And they're good reasons. And they make sense. And if you don't believe that, you're not really opening your mind and studying them well enough. I'm not saying you shouldn't have convictions. I'm not saying you're not going to leave here having strong convictions about certain aspects. I do. But at the same time, whenever you see me present it here in the theology, through Theology in a Year, it's going to be irenic. I am going to be very kind to opposing positions, and I want to do so in such a way, if they're sitting here listening, if you're listening right now and you hear your view represented, and I don't agree with your view, but I represent it, I would love to see a comment that said, Michael, you just represented our view perfectly, just the way I would. Thank you. And I don't do that just to get credit with people. I do that because it's part of the Decalogue, the commandments, the 10 commandments. You shall not bear false witness. And let me tell you something. Hey, listen, you can bear false witness in the church. In theology, you can. And what you do is you straw man. You build their arguments really bad, that you disagree with them, and so you give the worst representation. Maybe you've never even studied it, you just heard it, and then you beat up on the worst representation. You give the worst arguments for somebody else, and we do this in our life every day. Every time we're giving our side of the story, we are strawmanning other people because we want whoever we're talking to believe us. We don't give a defense for them. We just the only reason they're doing this is because, the only reason they believe this is because they want credit. No. You do not strawman people. We cannot strawman people. Irenic theology doesn't strawman people. And we can't do it in our theology. We cannot. We got to be irenic. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it at all. I'm really not. You may be listening to this and say, Michael, I've seen some of your blog posts and they seem to be strawman. And I readily admit to it. I readily admit that I'm a failure in this. But here's the deal. I'm trying. I really am. This what we're doing here is very focused through Theology in a Year. Send this to other people, please. Let's get involved. Comment. You've got to comment. This gets things going on the different platforms that this goes to. If you listen to this on Spotify later on or YouTube, whatever podcast, comment, get it going, share it. We've got to do that. I don't mean to close this down so quickly. I'm not quite done, but I am close. But you've got to get this out. We've got to get this out here in order for it to get more broadly seen. Okay, so here we have Irenic theology represented with all the others. You got polemic theology. I don't really know what I was doing with this post, to tell you the truth. It looks cool. It looks like it has something, but I'm just basically saying all these things happen within the church. I should have gotten rid of that, but I like it. It's cool. I'm going to make a t-shirt with it, even though I don't really know what it means. Okay, let's see here. Here's the theology program. Let me zoom in on this. You see here, you've got the entire, this is what we're doing. I don't know what that little square is on the left, but here's what we're doing. Introduction to Theology, Bibliology, and Hermeneutics. That we're talking about the history of the Bible, and hermeneutics is how we interpret the Bible, our method of interpretation. Trinitarianism, that's the study of the doctrine of the Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, their person, their nature. That's going to be incredible. Humanity and sin, we're going to be talking about ourselves and our sinfulness and how we're connected to Adam, that kind of stuff, asking questions about that, or whether we're connected to Adam. Soteriology, that means, soteria means to save. So this is about salvation. That's probably the most controversial one. Maybe the next one is ecclesiology and eschatology. That's talking about the church. What is the church? How should the church be set up? What is its nature? What are the gifts of the church? What are the all the marks of a true church? And eschatology, the end times. How is everything going to pan out? Lots of different views there. But we're going to be going through every single one of these during this entire program, during this entire year. So we're going to have 1 year of going through I'm trying to look at the timing here. I think I got the timing wrong, so I'm not quite so much out of time like I thought. But let's see here. I think that's the last one. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go back to that. Let's see if I can get back. I don't know. I know how to go forward, but I don't. Oh, there we go. Right there it says Dallas Theological Seminary. Oops, can't see it. Hold on. It says Dallas Theological Seminary at the top, Center for Biblical Studies at Stonebriar Community Church. I thought that was funny. I left that in here. I'm updating these. A lot of you guys have been using these in your church, all these slides for a long time. You teach the theology program because it's available to teach. There's workbooks. There's not going to be workbooks for this through Theology in a Year. I guess you could buy the workbook. It would work. It really would. But at credocourses.com, like I said, you can get this whole program on a thumb drive. You can download it. You can get all the workbooks. You can get physical versions of the workbooks. You can get PDFs of the workbooks. They've got quizzes, all kinds of stuff. But that's for integrating in your church. But when we first started this, it was part of Dallas Theological Seminary's Center for Biblical Studies. I really love that deal because Dallas Theological Seminary tried to offer classes to the general public, but they had their students teach them. And that's where I got started. And I taught them for years. And then after I graduated, I said, hey, can we start a branch of the Center for Biblical Studies at this church I'm a pastor at? And that's where that came from. I thought that was pretty cool. So anyway, that is what to expect. I don't know if you guys have any questions or comments. Get them in quick. I don't know if I can even see them, but I see there's a lot of people here in the various places. So if you want to say hi real quick, that would be great. If you're listening to this, like I said, after the fact, not live, you can't, but you can make a comment. And you can rate this to see how you like it. I hope you like it, because it gets out there. But if any of y'all out there could make a comment real quick, that would be great, because it would tell me whether or not my chat window is working. Because I don't think it's working. I haven't seen one comment the entire time, and that's not normal. So if anybody has a comment, great. Also, right now, if you're listening to this, I do have a Patreon. Doesn't mean I'll have one later on whenever you're listening to this years from now. I've just been on Patreon for a year and a half, but I write there. I write there a lot. And we got a good community of 350 or so people. I think it's somewhere around there. But we got a good community. You can subscribe for free. And you know what? I forgot to put this on my Patreon. I usually put this live on my Patreon. Anyway, you could subscribe there for free. Go to patreon.com/C Michael Patton. Everything that I am is C Michael Patton, Facebook, Twitter, just wherever you go. You usually put the name of the place and then /C Michael Patton all together. C and then Michael and then Patton. C is in Christopher. And you'll find me if you ever need to find me and follow me in some place. That's fine. But nobody ever has C. Michael Patton. There's no other C. Michael Pattons out there, which there really is, actually. There's another Michael Patton who was the lead singer of Faith No More, is the lead singer of Faith No More. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But I hope you enjoyed what we're doing. I hope that I have presented this in a way that makes you salivate for theology. I hope you're ready. Next week we're getting straight in, and we're talking about the different categories of theology. We're going to be talking about philosophical theology, apologetic theology, and historical theology, and how this all fits into this funny word, systematic theology. I'm going to define systematic theology for you, and I think you might be a little bit surprised, but join us tomorrow, and we'll get into talking about that. Thanks for joining us now, and it looks like we are working. Richard, nice to see you. Thank you for commenting. You did this with a few mates a few years ago. Good. Well, let's go through it again together. Let's go through it all together. How's that? I'm excited about this. Can't wait to see you guys. Continue to come. Please share this, like it, do everything that is necessary to get this going, and remember to get with us every day, because I'm doing this every day. All right. Bye.